a Pinterest strategy is not a full Pinterest strategy without having some sort of consistency. The consistency ultimately comes from having a workflow. If you run an e-commerce shop and you're looking for marketing platforms, then you may be considering Pinterest in 2026. Now, a lot of e-commerce shop owners focus a lot on making Pinterest pins or putting their product imagery on their Pinterest profile, but pins are really only part of the overall e-commerce Pinterest strategy. In practical terms, your Pinterest marketing strategy should include this list of things, but this is not all of them, okay? So let's just pop them up on the screen for you so you can actually see what they are. So keyword research or SEO, trend awareness, so the Pinterest trends on the Pinterest Trends tool, those can be used as keywords on your pins, on your boards, and all of those places. Your boards and the board structure. Your pins, obviously, that is a big component that, like I said, most e-commerce shops and most creators, in fact, just focus on altogether. And then publishing workflow and analytics. Now, in this video, we're not going to talk in depth about analytics. I do have other videos on the channel where you can reference that. However, we are going to go through kind of the outline of your Pinterest marketing strategy as an e-commerce store, and we are going to hit on the things that I mentioned in this list, minus analytics. I want to break down each of these into almost like a framework that you can follow. This is foundational. If you do these things, you should get some reach on the platform. You should see clicks. You should see traffic. I want you to remember, going into this whole conversation, Pinterest is the car to get people to your store. Right? So I call up an Uber. Hey Uber, can you please take me to the candle shop around the corner? And the Uber shows up and takes me there. Okay? The phone call is your pinner on Pinterest searching on the platform. The Uber driver in the car is Pinterest sending the traffic to your website. And ultimately your website is the shop, it's the destination. Pinterest is not the conversion mechanism, and it cannot convert your product into sales for you. That is the entire job of your website. So if your website is not converting, Pinterest traffic is probably not going to fix that for you. So you probably will want to fix that problem before you invest heavily into any marketing platform. Not just Pinterest, but Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Google Ads, Snapchat, LinkedIn, whatever other place you are at, okay? So just know that going in. Pinterest is not going to be the thing that converts, neither is any of the other platforms. It is simply the vehicle in which people get to your store. All right, so what actually matters in Pinterest marketing strategy if you're an e-commerce shop owner? Before we talk about boards, before we talk about pins, we need to talk about what drives visibility on Pinterest and what Pinterest is not. So Pinterest is obviously not social media. If you've seen any of my videos in the past, you've probably heard me say this. If you've watched any other Pinterest marketers videos, you've probably heard them say that as well, because it's true. It is technically a social media platform, but it behaves wildly differently than any other social media platform on the planet, which is why we like to say as marketers that it's less like social media and it's more of a search engine. Now, it is not just a search engine, it's a search and discovery platform. Pinterest has recently billed itself as an AI-driven search and discovery platform, but they're also leaning heavily into shopping as well. That means visibility typically comes from a few things. Number one, search. Number two, engagement algorithms. So just like every other platform, Pinterest has an engagement algorithm, and they will serve your content to other pinners based on what you're creating on and their interests in those things. It's also going to serve based on boards and how your boards are indexed. It's going to serve based on behavior of the pinner on the platform. So again, that engagement piece. But really the main two buckets here is engagement and search. Now, if either of those pieces are missing, or if you aren't consistently publishing, if you have poor content organization on your profile, meaning you have poor board organization and structure and strategy, and you have poor creatives, going into those buckets with holes, then it's not really gonna work out for you in the end. Like it might work out to some extent, but your catalog is probably going to do the majority of the heavy lifting in the algorithm, and your content, your pins that you're creating aren't going to do as much of the heavy lifting. So in the end, it might not get distributed, and if it doesn't get distributed, you're going to feel like you're getting lackluster results. You're probably going to walk away from the platform, and you're probably going to say something to the effect of, well, Pinterest just doesn't work for me. And in reality, that's probably not true. So let's dive into each of these Pinterest strategy foundational components. Let's start first with keywords and trends. Let's define that for Pinterest, for e-commerce, and then we will do the same for trends, and then we will move on. Keywords on Pinterest are similar but not the same as keywords on Google. We do have informational keywords. We also have consideration style keywords. I'm going to bucket them today into 3 categories you're going to hear me talk about in a moment. But they are more of like top of funnel awareness, middle of funnel consideration, bottom of funnel purchase. There are those full funnel, behaviors happening on the platform, even in the search engine of Pinterest. We've been seasoning this thing for a long time. And ultimately, the keywords that you use for your pins should also be used for your boards as well. Let's talk about trends. So Pinterest trends are similar, but again, not the same as Google Trends. It's a very similar tool. It's going to tell you the popularity of any given topic or trend on Pinterest throughout the year. They also have filters by which they can filter this through. Growing, monthly, seasonal, and yearly, 4 different filter categories. And they also have search trends and shopping trends. So again, if you want to learn any more specifically about the topics I talk about in this video today, they are here on the channel. I have talked about them ad nauseum, and you can go and watch any of the videos on the channel about those. So your Pinterest trends or your Pinterest trending keywords should be prioritized and used as keywords on your pins and your boards as well. So in essence, keywords from the search bar, from the ads manager, as well as keywords from the trends tool should all be treated as keywords on your Pinterest marketing strategy. So with Pinterest being a search engine, and your strategy should begin with understanding what people are searching for. The same way that you would do this on Google or Bing or whatever search engine that you want to rank on. We're going to talk about Google because obviously Google is like the monopoly of all the search engines. So I'm going to refer to Google here. But if you are building your Shopify website, you're going to go to Google, you're going to find keywords that you want to rank for related to your products, and you're going to put those on your website. That is the same thing that you're going to do on Pinterest. So you're going to find the keywords on Pinterest, you're going to use them on your profile on Pinterest to then bring pinners to your profile and to your content on the platform. So an example, a brand might come along and create some boards. It took me about 6 hours to write this outline for this video. So in about the 6 hours it took me to outline this YouTube video today, I was searching because I created the outline on the basis of a candle brand or candle company. One of my friends is considering creating and starting a candle company. So I like to be nice to my friends, so I wanted to create this video as a tool for her to use for her Pinterest strategy. Now in creating it, I came across a lot of Pinterest profiles with examples that I'm going to read off this list right now off my computer that are just okay boards, but they're not, or okay keywords, but they're not like the best. They're just like, they're starters, okay? It's a starter and we can work on it. So for example, a candle brand might find keywords like fall candle scents, cozy home decor, best gifts, candles, or best candle gifts. These are actual examples I found on people's profiles. Self-care nightly routine. Now those are great, but again, it's just a starter list. It's not like super niched in on the candle brand itself. but it's parallel to the candle brand. Sure, if I'm making like a ritual around lighting a candle for my self-care routine, then that might be an optimal time to present a candle in your Pinterest strategy, right? Fall searches, for example, might start in early summer. Holiday searches will start in late summer, early fall. And specific gift searches, because that was one of the keywords in the list, depends on the holiday, could start weeks, if not months in advance. So a lot of people will actually start shopping for Christmas or ideating for Christmas gifts midway through the year. Saving ideas, pinning on those, searching out retailers that they can go and touch and feel and buy, or searching out the best deals. So all of that takes time, and that's where Pinterest pinners will save things to their profiles. So it really matters in context when we're talking about our keyword strategy that we're timing that right, and that we're layering in, especially if we're talking about timing, we're layering those seasonal trends in the right way. Let's talk about board strategy as the next topic for your e-commerce Pinterest marketing strategy. So we talked about keywords. You're gonna go and find a list of keywords that are related to the categories on your website. That's where the boards come in. So the boards are actually birthed from what you sell on your website, and the easiest way for most people to create their board strategy on Pinterest is to create it based on the categories of products that they sell. That's the simplest and easiest approach to getting started. You don't need to start with 60 boards, you need to start with one board for each category of product that you sell on your website. So boards are really one of the most misunderstood parts of Pinterest, and this is where people will create boards that are just nonsensical, but most brands will treat boards as like a folder of like, I'm gonna like file this paper away. But a folder, if you picked up a folder anywhere in my house, you could open that up and it probably would have artwork, schoolwork, spelling work, math work, all sorts of things inside that folder, and that is not what we want to do with our Pinterest boards. Boards on Pinterest really serve more as topic signals, and they help the pins themselves get indexed and served to the right audiences. So ultimately, boards are going to help Pinterest to understand what your account is about, like what pins you are pinning about. It's going to understand what audience you serve, what types of content belongs to you and what you need to be known for, and then how to index your content, ultimately serving it to those audiences, as I mentioned. So e-commerce brands boards should reflect customer intent and product use signals, or product topic signals, whatever you want to call them. And you should start your board strategy around those categories on your website. Now, if your website categories are not well optimized, then you're probably going to have trouble creating your boards on Pinterest as well. And that's just something you're going to have to troubleshoot through and work through, because this is a skill that you can learn. It's good to learn. So let's dive back into the candle brand example again. So instead of naming boards like our products or my store name candles or my store name as a board name, shop candles or candle gifts or beeswax candles, let's instead flip it and turn our boards into searchable topics. So I have a list here that we can pop up onto the screen, and I'll kind of shimmy to the side. But instead of doing things like my store name, let's do things like fall candle scents or cozy home decor, self-care nightly routines, minimalist home decor. These are more broad. Remember, these are those keyword examples that we started with in the keyword section of this video. On the flip side, if you want to get even more distinctive and niche down into the candle brand, you could do things like natural beeswax candles. So what material are you using for your product? Let's make a board around that. Wooden wick soy wax candles. Very long tail keyword rich phrase that you can use for a board title, pin titles, pin text overlays, keywords for descriptions for boards and for pins. You could also put this in your Pinterest bio. You could put this in your Pinterest display name, all of the above. It's a really good long tail keyword, especially if you sell soy wax candles. Candle accessories, while broad, is still going to put you in the ballpark that you need to be in. Naturally scented homes, again, more broad, less about candles, but it gives you the ability to add in maybe some of those scented stick diffusers as well as candles. So if you were to sell other scents, you could put them on that board as well. Natural candle scents. This is where you could educate your audience on the natural scents that you use in your candles. You could even do unscented candles. That's all I buy is unscented candles because I just like the light. And then you could even go like housewarming gift ideas, because why not? Each board really does represent a topic that your customer's already searching for. And we want to be there when they are searching for that topic, and we want to show up for them. And that's where Pinterest really sees the consistent content, the consistent pins being published, the consistent products being published to your profile, and those keywords being used consistently. I know I like to use that word a lot, but that's an opportunity for Pinterest to serve your audience when they are looking for you. This helps your pins to get to the right people. All right, let's move on to the actual pin strategy itself, because this is where most people probably spend the majority of their time. I have some actual examples I'm going to break down in this section as we dive in, so I'll pop a screen share up on the screen when we get to that section. But pins are really the most visible part of your Pinterest strategy in general, because that's what people are seeing to click on to go to your website, right? But they're not the whole strategy, but they are an important part of your strategy. So we're going to talk today about those 3 types of content that we have discussed in a previous video on the channel, and why I think e-commerce brands should create those 3 types of content. Well, we're going to talk about those a little bit today, and I have some examples for you. So you can go much deeper into those in that other video, but stick around, because while product pins are not, the only type of pin that you should create, we should be creating discovery pins, consideration pins, and product pins. All 3 buckets are super important to the overall process in the Pinterest strategy, but Pinterest users are in an idea or planning phase to start. However, they will go through the funnel and ultimately purchase. So your content should include inspiration. It should also include education about your product, how to use it, how to store it, how to whatever with it. And it should also include products. Now, there's no hard mix of content that you should do. There's no 70-30. There's no 70-20-10 rule here. Just publish. That's what I want you to do. Just publish. Try things out, see what works, and then do more of what works. For example, with our candle brand, discovery pins, and this is where I'm going to pop up the screen share on this screen. So for our discovery pins, we have 2 examples. I have 2 examples for each. Well, there might be 3 for this second bucket. So for cozy evening routine ideas, you can put this on your self-care routine board, and it can link to a blog post about how to create a cozy routine, and you incorporate your product into the blog post. The second example here is minimalist home decor inspiration for fall. Simple and cozy fall decor. You can notice there's several different keywords used on the actual design of this pin. Again, this would link to a blog post, because pinners who are engaging with this kind of content are very high up on the start of their journey, okay? Awareness phase. We have to keep in mind that these pins might get impressions and saves. They may even get traffic to the website, but they're probably not going to result in a ton of sales right away, or maybe even at all. And that's okay, because their job is not for sales alone. Every pin should not have the same end goal. Now, the next example here are the consideration pins. So these, I created these with AI because I did not have a lot of time. Again, I did this over 6 hours, the outline. But these pins created with an AI tool, one of them is like cozy bedroom aesthetic ideas. It's giving you different ideas to consider and choose from. Fall living room decor ideas, again, it's giving you multiple things to choose from. Remember, this is consideration. This is the phase in the customer journey where they're choosing between ideas. This could also be brand versus brand, or product versus product, so beeswax versus soy wax. But this is in that section where this could be a blog post, it could be a sales page, it could be a category page, it could be a product that you would ultimately link these to. And again, these probably won't generate a ton of sales, but they will generate traffic to the website, and we ultimately need traffic on the website. The last examples, these are product pins. These are meant to sell. These could also be used for ads. So any product pins that you make could theoretically be used in an ad campaign if you wanted them to be. So the autumn candle collection, shop collection, there's a call to action on this pin. Vanilla soy wax candle, perfect for fall. And it's showcasing the product. And you can notice here on these pins, I very explicitly told my AI tool to make sure to add a logo. It added my name instead of the fake candle brand that I created. However, those are your product pins. So your products should be the focus of your pins for this part of your Pinterest strategy. So you can see the difference in the pin types and the kind of like the journey through from awareness to purchase of what that could look like. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a start. The creative assets that you use should include not only your white background photos, but lifestyle imagery as well, because people want to see your products in the space that they're going to be consumed and used and enjoyed. So make sure you are creating lifestyle photos, or at least mock-ups. If you don't have the ability to create it yourself and photograph it yourself, or you don't have the budget, then you can use some AI tools to support you in that. However, people want to see those lifestyle photos of the products, so it's really important that you're using those. Obviously, product photography and videography showcase how the product moves, showcase the inside of it, showcase the up close, the details. Those things are so important. You also want to, on the flip side of your Pinterest strategy for creative assets, you also want to create some like educational type graphics. So you could create infographics that have like this wax versus this wax, or this leather versus this leather, or this fabric versus leather, whatever it is that you sell. You could create infographic style pins. Those drive education, but they also drive saves on the platform. And then obviously video content. You want to create video pins. You want to showcase your product in a way that people can see how it behaves, how it moves, how it flexes. I recently bought a purse from a really popular leather company. And I've worked with most of the leather bag companies that sell on Pinterest. This is the only one I've not worked with. And I saw the purse on the mock-up, but I didn't see a video. It's a round leather purse, by the way. It's super cute, but it's always collapsed in. And if I would have known that, I probably wouldn't have bought that particular bag. And there were no videos for me to see how the bag behaved with someone actually using it, and that's kind of disappointing. It's definitely on me for not doing my homework, but it's definitely on the brand for also not providing that kind of resource for people to be able to see the product. Some of those examples are like lifestyle images showing the actual product in the space. We talked about this earlier in the video. Another example are product shots showing the packaging, the textures. Again, I touched on this earlier. I'm gonna rehash the list. Sometimes I don't know why I do that. Anyways, here we go. Educational graphics explaining scents, fabrics, care, how people can use, abuse, and rebuy your products. And then the short videos showing maybe like the candle, like in this example, it's a candle seller, right? So the candles flickering and how they flicker, and like maybe a time lapse of the candle burning and what that looks like. You could also do lifestyle images of the product before and after. What does that look like? That way people get a feel for what your product is ultimately going to do for them. Creative assets are important, but keywords and boards are foundational to your success on Pinterest. So let's talk briefly about the last thing, and that's a workflow. And this is less about workflow and more about just reinforcing what to work on and when. A Pinterest strategy is not a full Pinterest strategy without having some sort of consistency. The consistency ultimately comes from having a workflow. A workflow can be as simple as week 1, you do keyword research. Week 2, you make pins. Week 3, you schedule pins. Week 4, you start all over again. But within that kind of very systematic framework, you might get overwhelmed with, when do I add in seasonal content? When should I do new keyword research? So you might do like a monthly keyword research, for example. Quarterly trend planning. So once a month you find new keywords for the next month. Quarterly you find new trends for the next quarter. And then you do a weekly, publishing workflow where you kind of work within the bounds of that monthly outline of pin planning, pin creation, pin scheduling. And you kind of repeat that process, and then as the weeks go on, you plug in monthly keyword research, quarterly trend planning, quarterly analytics reports to see what was working and where you need to focus inside of your strategy. A simple rhythm, because I know I'm going to get this question, I always get this question, is how many pins per day should I publish? If you're an e-commerce shop, you should be pinning more pins per day. 1 pin per day is not going to cut it for e-commerce shops. So I would say 3 to 5 URLs each day is great. Unique images, if possible. Unique lifestyle Pinterest pins that you create, if possible. However, sometimes it is okay to go ahead and schedule those white background images. Totally fine. They need to be on your Pinterest profile anyways, because when you import your catalog, those images imported into the catalog for the shop feature of Pinterest do not get placed on your Pinterest profile anyways. So you can pin your catalog, that's totally fine. Do a mix of discovery content, educational style content if you have a blog, and then product pins. You can still create educational style content and link them to product pins if your product listing pages are well built out and have lots of education around the product itself. Now, over time, you're going to be publishing like this, and this is going to create a library of content on Pinterest. Lots of opportunities for people to find you and click on your stuff. That is good. That's compounding. That's what we want. And that's why Pinterest can serve your content for years to come, because it is parked on Pinterest. People do come on this platform and search for it, actively click on things that might have been published 4 years ago and still go to your website because it's still active. It's still something that you sell. Now, if it is something that you do not sell anymore as an e-commerce shop, you might consider creating like an out of stock category that you move those items into that removes the buy button, but you're not sending people to dead links on your website. That might be something that you should consider. Now, this strategy works because it creates a structured content ecosystem for your website, for your products on your website on Pinterest. It helps when you combine keyword research, trends research, board strategy, strategic creative assets, strong creative assets too. So remember when I said good lifestyle photography and videography, and consistency in publishing. It works because over time these things build, they amplify, they compound, and they start to pay off in results of traffic to your website. Now remember, at the beginning of the video I told you Pinterest is not responsible for conversions, your website is. If you're not getting conversions from your Pinterest traffic, you need to make sure you look at your website and figure out where the leaks in the boat are. Pinterest starts really at the beginning in those keywords and boards to understand what your products are and what content you create, and that helps them to index you in the places where you need to be indexed. Once that happens, your visibility can grow. That means more traffic over time, more people to your website. So if you're an e-commerce brand looking at Pinterest for your strategy this year, follow the things I talked about in this video. If you want more one-on-one support, you can obviously reach out, heatherfarris.com. You can also join my Pinterest membership, pinprofitacademy.com. I will put all the things on the screen, and obviously they will be in the description down below as well. and I'll see you in the next video.